Take us back to the beginning. How did you discover your passion for acting and storytelling?
Oh my goodness. When I was really small, like 4 or 5, I I went to this festival. My parents kind of brought me to this festival that was like a buskering festival, and there was lots of buskering acts from all over the place. There was comedians, there was jugglers, there was magicians, there was even like a touring Shakespeare company that kind of just went around, and I remember sitting there watching King Lear, having no idea what was going on, and all that I knew was whatever was happening was really cool and engaging, and better than any cartoon I've ever seen, with the sword fighting and the passion and the spitting. It all just seemed very high stakes, and I I loved it. And I remember my father kind of he was into like acting, although he didn't pursue it as a career. He still acted throughout my childhood and like regional theater and stuff. And so I saw him on stage and saw him as not my dad on stage, and I thought that was kind of like a cool magic trick that he was pulling off. And was really just that started the kind of obsession that I had about storytelling and immersing myself into a character and trying to be a team player in the overall story of things. And I really do, I love it to this day. Couldn't imagine doing anything else.
When you look at your career as a whole, who or what's had the biggest influence, either personally or professionally?
That's a great question. I think the biggest influence that I've had so far would be, David Duchovny early on. When I was first getting out of theater school, I studied theater for 3 years and hadn't really done any film and TV before, and so it's a totally different muscle, and it's almost a completely different thing acting for film and TV. And a lot of what works in theater doesn't really translate to film and TV. And sometimes, although the story and the idea of breaking down a scene and adding, making strong character choices and all that is the same, the tool and the way you express it is very, very different. So David Duchovny, I was like really young, 23 at the time, and I did this movie with Demi Moore and David Duchovny and Amber Heard. David Duchovny and Demi, they played my parents, and Amber played my sister, and we played this kind of family. The movie was called The Joneses, and I was watching Californication at the time, and a huge fan of it, and secretly was watching episodes in my trailer between takes with David, and really idolizing him at the time. And I think it's some of David's greatest work is in Californication. And anyway, he kind of like took me under his wing in a certain sense, because I was open with the fact that I had no idea what I was doing, and although I had a strong passion for it. And he would kind of almost give me lessons. He'd be like, watch this kid, and he'd go out and do literally nothing. Like, he would literally do nothing in a scene. And he said, "Do you see that?" And I was like, "I'm not sure if I did." He's like, "Exactly." He's like, "Sometimes all you got to do is get out of the way and let the words do the work." And that was a fascinating lesson that I still work on today, because I think a lot of the time actors get in the way of the storytelling sometimes by trying to make it too much about themselves, and not identifying the really just a piece in the story. So David Duchovny, kind of to this day, still has that impact, and we keep in touch. And one other funny story from the set. I remember I used to get like a little, it was my first big Hollywood movie, and I get a little nervous between takes or in the scene or whatnot. and David had this little fart machine. And whenever things were getting a little too serious, you'd hear this fart. I can't imagine the studio listening to dailies, because it's, they have no idea that it's a fart machine. They're just hearing these farts. And it really kept me, it really like threw me off whatever I was thinking at the time and brought me to the moment, and it was great. And I think he also enjoyed it too. But yeah, to this day, maybe Lionsgate thinks I have some flatulent issues.
That's a great story. You've had a
Yeah.
lot of success throughout your career. When you look back, is there a particular moment that stands out to you?
Yeah, you know what? For the success that I've had, I'll talk about maybe the most difficult time I had. I shortly after doing the Joneses, I met Ashton on the set, and we Ashton Kutcher, who was married to me at the time, and he had this new series he was doing for CW, and it was basically based on his life as a model in New York, basically coming from a small town in Iowa and having no idea about the modeling industry or anything really about the business, and kind of landing in New York and having to navigate it alone. And it sounded really cool. And Misha Barton was going to do it and did it. And bunch of pretty great talented people were involved with doing it. It was for the CW, and so I signed on to do that, and we shot it in New York. And I just come off doing this movie, and I was still very young. I was 24, I think, at the time. I moved to Manhattan and got this beautiful apartment that I thought I was going to be instantly, the Gossip Girl was happening at the time, and they came and they kind of took us under their wing, and we were living living it up in New York with the Gossip Girl crew, with Ed and Chase, and thinking that literally nothing was going to touch me. We shot, we were on episode 7, and I remember distinctly, I was in my dressing room in Kaufman Studios. I had actually Charlie Chapman's dressing room. Kaufman Studios is the oldest studio in all of North America. And I had Charlie Chapman's dressing room, and I remember, on the wall, there's like all these signatures from just like greats, like Anthony Hopkins, just everyone. I mean, Denzel Washington, like anyone who you'd even like, Robert Redford. I mean, it was just nuts. And I remember it was like around Halloween, and one of the ADs came into the dressing room. She knocked on the door. She's like, "Ben, okay, we're done. It's time to go home." I was like, "That's weird. I only have like 3 scenes left in the day." And she's like crying. I'm like, "Why are you upset? If we're wrapping early, this is not a bad thing." She's like, "No, we're done. It's over. We have 30 minutes to get out of here." I'm like, I still don't understand. Like, we're done the day? Like, what happened? Do they run out of tape? And she's like, "No, they can't. We're canceled." And I'm like, "Canceled? What does that mean?" Still young, have no idea how the business works. And she said, "No, the CW's canceled this, and we have 30 minutes to get out of the building." 30 minutes. And so out came the garbage bag, and all of us kind of weirdly shocked, packed all of our stuff into garbage bags, and went to the local, the closest drinking establishment, and proceeded to drink ourselves into oblivion. And I remember that day specifically because I drove like on the taxi ride back to my place. I drove by the billboard that I'd seen every day on the way to work, and the campaign was us naked. I had my hands over my crotch, and this billboard was like 60, 70 feet tall inside of one of the buildings in Manhattan, and they were literally taking it down as I was going back. And I remember I had a shipment of furniture the next day. I woke up with a hangover, the ding dong, and all this furniture was arriving at my house. And I was like, no, send it back. I can't afford it. I've lost my job. And so that's how quickly, talk about success. That's how quickly the industry can come, like the waves of it. I think Entourage did a really good job of showing just like one day you're on top of the world, and the next day it's just all gone. And then the next day, you're back up. So as much success as I have had on the outside, there's been a lot of like ups and downs where you kind of have to weather the storm. And I think that's kind of one of those pinnacles, but then crashes of my career. My good friend and former roommate Nina Dogra was on another CW show at the time, and Vampire Diaries, and of course that went for like 8 seasons or 9 seasons, or I don't know, 1,000. And so it was fun. It was fun to see like where she went, and then of course I went different directions, but I think it's really interesting, that side of the business.
And, now you're currently one of the stars of Virgin River, and the series has been incredibly well received. What do you
Yeah.
think is resonating most with audiences?
I think in the middle of this pandemic and I just think the golden age of TV too has brought us a lot of very dark drama, stuff that's really like Handmaid's Tale, which is very important, but it's like, whoa, every episode you're like, whoa. And I think what resonates with the audience in Virgin River is there's this sense of community. There's a sense of passion and love and understanding and tragedy and the human condition is very much present, but this sense of community that like as we all kind of got shut off from each other and like went into our own bubbles, this reminder that we used to live as this community that looked out for people and really function on a cohesive level, that still existed. I think that was very comforting for people, and I think obviously we've got some great actors on the show, and we've got some really good writers and the beautiful surroundings in which we shoot also help. But and Robin Carr, her books are there's tons of storylines in there, and I think they're all kind of masterly weaved together by Sue Tenney, our showrunner, and so yeah, I would say the sense of community is really what's drawing people together for the show.
Yeah, when you're working on a project that's being adapted from a popular book series, it creates the opportunity to really flesh out these characters, your character in particular. When you initially signed on for this project, did you have any idea that it would start off as a recurrent role and then lead into a series regular? What was your kind of expectations?
Yeah, when I got the offer, it was for recurring, and I just finished Code Black at the time, which was a medical drama on CBS and very much a network show. And we'd run for 3 years, and I was unsure if I wanted to jump right back into TV or if I wanted to try, doing some films, and I thought, hey, a recurring contract I think might be the best way to go here, and just keep options open and see how this goes. And when I got to work and started to see, what the potential might be like for Brady and what angles we could potentially take him in, Sue reached out and was like, hey, we're back for season 2. We'd love to have you. And I had some other things happening, and I was like, well, I need to see season 1, and she showed me season 1, and it was great. And I was like, you know what, sure, I'm all in. Let's do it. We kind of talked about where we wanted to go with Brady and what the like overall vision was for him, and that all made me excited. So I was like, yeah, let's do this.
Season 2 ends with a major cliffhanger, and fans have quickly added Brady to their suspect list. I know you can't say who shot Jack, but what was your reaction when you found out who was responsible for it?
I still don't know. Yeah, I
Oh,
don't think anyone. No, I don't think anyone knows who shot Jack yet. Um, I think it's one of those things that I get asked in the street all the time. People don't want a photo with me; they just want to know who shot Jack. I'm just kidding. No, but it is very, very, very important question. I think season three, you'll see that be the top of everyone's mind, and Brady in the thick of it. Um, but will you find out by the end of season three? I can't tell you.
that's a good teaser. You know, when you're playing a character whose moral fabric is so different from your own, what challenges slash freedoms does that bring to you as an actor?
Yeah, well, I always say that whenever I play, an antagonist or someone who's maybe on the fringe, gives me an ability to kind of not have to look out for, would my character do this, or is this betraying, am I going to lose the audience? Are they not going to like me? If I do this, is it going to really, are we going to lose people here? And that responsibility comes with a bit of handcuffs and what you can do and what you can't do. And whereas when you don't have that, you're just really relying on instinct and impulse, and you can make choices within the scene and in the moment. Especially a character like Brady, who's edgy and very impulsive, and you get this intense kind of unpredictability to him, and that's great, and I love playing that. It really does free me up to do things that are unexpected, and push the envelope a little bit.
You've also teased that we're going to get to see a different side of Brady this season. What can fans expect from season three?
Well, I think Sue, our showrunner, said that there's going to be a funeral, a hurricane, a new love interest, a fire, uh, and something else. And I can tell you that Brady's a part of one of those.
Hmm.
Um, and I can also say that you'll see a little more Brady, and he'll be doing things that you're not used to Brady's doing, and he'll be doing things that he shouldn't do, and that he knows he shouldn't do, but he does them anyway. If that's cryptic enough for you.
That's a great answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Final question for you. Now, in addition to being an actor, you also started writing during the pandemic. How's your work behind the scenes? How's that influence your on-camera acting?
Yeah, you know what? I really, gosh, writing, it totally takes a different um, muscle in the storytelling element. Usually, I'm coming in, I'm going, okay, here are the puzzle pieces. How do we all fit them together? And then writing is just this blank canvas, and it really allows your imagination to kind of wander and expand to the edges of where you think it can go. And uh, and there's no budget when you're writing in your imagination. You don't constrain yourself to like, how much would this cost? That's all for someone else to figure out. So that's pretty amazing. Now I'm not writing Avatar, but it is kind of like um, it's kind of like a period piece that's a journey adventure kind of thing that has never really been done before. It's about log drivers who used to essentially walk on logs, to move these logs from where they cut them to the mill. A dangerous job, as you can imagine. And Yeah, to how it relates to acting. I feel like it really kind of, that limitation of like what you think it should be, um, and the intention and behind each line. It kind of like allows me to understand that this person's putting it here on the page, not just as a what they think it could be, but more, um, but more of like a piece of the puzzle to the overall story, and just to make sure that I am servicing that that you're really just a team player and overall thing, and just how important the words are to that, and maybe giving the respect to the writers a little bit more, just how important their job is, because when they're at their best, it makes our job a lot easier. Yeah.